So, let's talk about being a data analyst. If that's you, or you're hoping it will be, I want you to think of your career as a journey. And today, we're going to map out that entire journey together. How you go from staring at raw numbers to telling these powerful stories that actually make things happen. All right? Let's get into it.
Okay, let's kick things off with a big question. We are absolutely drowning in data these days, right? But what if the real problem isn't about collecting more of it? What if the biggest challenge is figuring out what on earth to do with the mountains of data we already have? That's the real puzzle we're here to solve today.
And that puzzle is where our journey begins. This is the call to adventure. For a data analyst, this is all about getting a handle on the world you're operating in, a world that is just overflowing with data.
Just stop and think about it for a second. The amount of information we generate every single day is, well, it's staggering. And we're not just talking about numbers in a spreadsheet. It's everything. It's the transactional data from purchases. It's telemetry from the apps and services you use. It's all those signals flying around on social media. It's like a constant, massive river of information.
Let's make this feel a little more real. Think about a regular retail business. They're tracking every single item you even look at, every web page you click on, maybe even the physical aisles you walk down in the store. All of your habits, all your spending, it creates this incredibly detailed data footprint. It's basically a story about you, just waiting for someone to read it.
So we have all this data, piles and piles of it. But this is where our hero, the data analyst, runs into the dragon. Because, having all that data is one thing. Actually making it useful, that's a completely different beast.
And this brings us to what you could call the data paradox. On the one hand, every business on the planet will tell you that data is their most strategic asset. But on the other hand, so many of them really struggle to use it in a way that's meaningful or productive. And it's in that gap between the potential and the reality where so many companies just get stuck.
And here's the fundamental reason why they get stuck. Raw data, all by itself, is just noise. It's a jumble of facts and figures with no context, no direction. It doesn't tell you what to do. It's like having a million puzzle pieces dumped on the floor, with no picture on the box to guide you. Without a clear story, it's pretty much impossible to figure out what the data is trying to tell you.
But in every hero's journey, there's that turning point, right? The moment the hero finds their magic sword. Well, for the data analyst, that magic sword is the power of a story. That's how we start to cut through the noise.
So what do we actually mean by data storytelling? It's the skill, I'd even call it an art, of turning all that complex data into a clear, compelling narrative. A story that leaders and decision makers can actually understand and, this is the most important part, act on. It is the key that unlocks all the value that's been hiding in your data all along.
And you can see the chain reaction it causes. When you tell an accurate story with data, that allows leaders to make decisions they can trust. Those trusted decisions lead to precise, confident actions. And those actions, that's what gives a business a real competitive edge. It's a straight line from a good story right to success.
So now we get to your mission. In the hero's journey, this is the road back, where you take this powerful new tool, this new clarity, and you bring it back to make a real impact on your world. This is the absolute core of your mission. I'm going to say it again. Just having the data isn't enough. It's not even close. The whole point is to use it to create change. That action could be anything. Maybe it's reallocating resources. Maybe it's spotting a marketing campaign that's failing, so you know when to pull the plug. Your stories have to lead to action.
And the potential impact is massive. Let's look at some real-world examples. You tell a story about inventory data, boom, you prevent stockouts. You tell a story about what people are buying, you can power smarter product recommendations. A great story about user trends can help optimize a campaign. For instance, if you compare sales week over week with last year and see a campaign is failing with a key group, your story gives leaders the proof they need to pivot. You detect patterns of fraud, you're literally protecting the company's bottom line. Every one of these stories solves a huge business problem.
Now, I know this might sound like a lot of pressure, maybe a little daunting, but here's the thing. You are not alone on this journey. In fact, you shouldn't be. A huge part of being a great storyteller is collaboration. You need to partner up with the other data experts, the data engineers building the systems, the data scientists creating the models. Get them involved. Invite them on this data journey with you.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of the whole mission. It's not just about telling one story. It's about building an entire data culture. It's about changing how your whole organization thinks about and uses data.
Because let's be honest, what good is the most brilliant, insightful data story in the world if nobody hears it? If it just sits in a folder somewhere, it's useless. So that brings us to a super critical question. Telling the story is one thing, but where and how that story gets told is just as important.
So how do you build that strong data culture? It really comes down to a few key things. First, you have got to make sure your story gets to the right people, the decision makers who can actually do something about it. Second, you have to make these stories easy to find. They can't be buried in some email chain from 3 weeks ago. And finally, you have to weave these data stories into the very fabric of how the business works. They need to be part of weekly meetings, quarterly planning sessions. You want data-driven thinking to become the default for everyone, not the exception.
And at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal. As a data analyst, your journey is about moving way beyond just creating a simple report. Your real purpose is to impact and influence your entire organization. It's about using the power of storytelling to unlock all that hidden value in the data and to drive a culture where information truly leads the way. So I'll leave you with a final thought. What hidden value is waiting in your data, and what story will you be the one to tell?